Good afternoon, dear students. You are most welcome in your favorite YouTube channel, Learning with Rajesh. In this YouTube channel, you are going to learn the SST topics of different classes. In 10th class, we have started lesson number 1 of civics, named as power sharing, and completed it also. So now today we are going to start lesson number 2 of civics, named as federalism, for 10th class. So first point of today is, so what do you mean by federalism? There is a question in your mind that in federalism, what is the meaning? So meaning of federalism is a ruling system in which there are different levels of government and decentralization of power. So there are two major things included in the meaning of federalism. First is there are different levels of the government and decentralization of government. You know that in a previous lesson we learned that there are different methods of sharing of power. In the democracies we can share power among the different levels of the government. So we learned that there are different levels of the government in the country, like the central government and the state government, and also can be the community government or local government as in India. So, and decentralization of power. Decentralization here means distribution of power among the central authority and the different local governments. It is known as decentralization of government. I think you got the first point, the meaning of federalism. And the next point, what are the features of federalism? So, what are the main features? The first feature is there, you can derive it from the definition, different levels of government is there. And the second point, decentralization is also there in federalism. And next is different jurisdiction. You know that what is the meaning of jurisdiction here? I wrote it in the last, but now want to tell you, jurisdiction is a geographical area where someone has legal power. For example, Haryana is the jurisdiction of Haryana government. So you know that Haryana is a geographical area where Haryana government has its own major power. So I think you got the point. So there are different jurisdiction. Different jurisdiction means the central government has its own jurisdiction and state government has its own jurisdiction. I think you got the third point. And the next is there are different revenue sources for different levels of the government. You know that the panchayat has its own revenue sources. You learned in the 6th, 7th class pol science civics. And you know that Haryana government or the central government has its revenue sources. So from where they can collect the revenue, like SGST, CGST. These are the different revenue sources of different governments. I think you got the fourth point. And the next is supremacy of constitution. When there is a federal system in a country, there is supremacy of constitution. Constitution can amend or constitution can define any powers or division of power is also given by the constitution. As we learned that in federalism, decentralization of power is there, but decentralization of power is also set by the constitution. What is the power of central government or what is the power of state government? It is also written by the constitution. That's why we can say that in federalism there is a supremacy of constitution. Next is federalism also enhance unity in the country. Why? Because in federalism power is distributed among the central and various levels of the government. So that's why all the levels of government do their work and the people of the different area also have different rights. That's why the state and central government and the local governments do their work easily, and their people are also working with very unity in the country. That's why it's improve the or it enhances the unity in the country. Next is type of government. There are two types of government: unitary type of government and federal type of government. When there is a unitary type of government in the country, only one level of government is there, only one level. So that's why there is unitary type of government. And in the unitary type of government, central government can order the lower government. So now you can think that one level of government here means one major level of government. Major means the only central government has major powers. So in Belgium, you learned that after the amendment of 1993, the government given some power to the state governments, and after this amendment, Belgium government turned into the federal, and before it was a unitary type of government. So central government can order the lower government, and the lower government is responsible to the central government. In the unitary type of government, the local government is responsible to the central government for its work. And the next type of government is federal type of government. In federal type of government, different levels of government is there. You learned from the first point. And central government cannot command the lower government. It means different levels of government are responsible for their work differently, and each government is responsible for their citizen. For example, Haryana government is responsible for the citizen of Haryana for their work, and on the other hand, central government is also responsible for the whole country people. I think you got this point. And the next is jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is a geographical area where someone has legal rights. I gave you example of Haryana in the beginning. So now I'm going to ask a question from you. So what we learned from the lecture. The first question for you: what do you mean by federalism? I think you know the answer. Federalism here means a system, a ruling system where there are different levels of the government and the distribution of power, or mean decentralization of power. I think you know. And the next is, what are the features of federalism? You know very well. And next and the last point of today is India a federal country, or what makes India a federal country? Yes, India is a federal country because you know that there are different levels of the government in India. And the next, there is decentralization of power in India. Haryana government has its power and the state government has its power. On the other hand, local government, or means panchayat, has its own power. So that's why there is decentralization of power. And next, different jurisdiction. Different jurisdiction, Haryana government or Punjab government has its own jurisdiction, and the next different government has different jurisdiction. Next, judiciary is also there. So when there is a federalism in the country, there is judiciary also for solving the conflict between the different level of government. So that's why we can say that India is a federal country. And the next is, there is supremacy of constitution. We learned in the features. So India, there is a constitution in India, and Indian constitution is also supreme constitution. That's why we can say that India is a federal country. I think you got all the points related to the lesson. So if you are new on my YouTube channel, please subscribe the channel, like and share also. And you all please subscribe and like the channel. And if you want to view or see my the previous videos, there is a link in the description, and you can watch the previous video for better understanding. Thank you and have a nice evening.